morning. Good morning. Welcome to the 4th Annual Global Learning Conference. Yay! The theme of this year's conference is Global Dialogue, and as you'll very soon experience, every participant in today's events, including all of you, will be engaging in thoughtful and thought-provoking discussions. And on that note, since the theme is dialogue, if during the day you wouldn't mind to introduce yourself to a few people who you haven't yet met, that would be very nice. A few words before we begin, and these words are best spoken by the internationally known educator Paulo Freire. I'm going to read this. Knowledge emerges only through invention and reinvention, through the restless, continuing, hopeful inquiry human beings pursue in the world, with the world, and with each other. Without deconstructing all of Freire's words, I want to say to begin this, which is our conference, that we're all here today as equals, not as faculty and students or as staff and administrators. That our purpose today is to engage in this emerging knowledge by talking, asking, reflecting on both the processes and products of global learning, and that we can only hope to find that knowledge of the other and of ourselves in the context of meaningful dialogue. So I'd like to also give a special introduction to the Miami-Dade public school teachers. If any are here, would you please stand up? Thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay, so here we go. Our first activity is the Global Learning Blasts. These are 15-minute interactive presentations of successful, cool global learning strategies that were used and can be used in courses and activities throughout the curriculum and the co-curriculum. And Ines Marino, instructor in communication arts, will start us off with her presentation, Going Global with Online Discussions.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for inviting me to participate today. And I will talk about why and how I use online discussions in my cultural communication class. I teach as a global learning class. The class I teach, it's about 60 students and with highly diverse backgrounds. And what we do is we explore what happens when people from different culture meet and share ideas and information. So the main goal of the class is that the students understand what culture is and how culture differences impact in communication, so as to achieve cultural competence and awareness. So it is imperative that they take exploratory ways in achieving the goal of the class. To do that, I assign team projects, and for this team project, they have to present a country, and for this they must collect voices, opinions, expectations, worldviews. So they do that through interviews, they do that through researching of current events, and they do that through discussions. Let me show you a picture of, this is a group from Germany presenting last week. And the presentations run about 40 minutes, and they are highly engaging for the rest of the class. So why do I use online discussions in my cultural communication class? Well, there are several reasons. First of all, it's over 60 students, the class, so there is no sufficient time to give everybody a space to participate. So Blackboard online discussions has helped in providing everybody with a space for meaningful participation. Secondly, they don't have to deal with the overwhelming anxiety of presenting in front of an audience. We all experience that. Third, research shows that there is a strong connection between participation and culture. This means that people from different culture participate in different ways in the classroom. So let me give you an example. I have a student from Japan, And due to Japanese cultural values, they are more of a listeners than talkers. So I don't hear his voice in the classroom. However, when I go to the online discussions to see his postings, it's amazing the strong opinions he has, the perspective he brings to the class, and how students engage with him because they are exposed to perspectives that they don't hear in the classroom. It also encouraged critical thinking because online discussions have a collaborative and reflective nature. Research shows that students don't want to sound unintelligent, so what they do is they make extra research. They read more perspective before making their posting. In other words, in some, they have to negotiate meaning and make sense of the information before posting. Then, of course, we know how important it is, the interaction between instructor and students. And in online discussions, we are able to provide feedback to individuals in individual basis, which it's difficult to do that in class. I hear some voices and I give some comments, but many students are left out. So here it's another space for letting their voices be heard. And it reflects generational preferences. It's Facebook culture. In online discussions, they can tag, they can rate, they post, they comment, and there is a very interesting study from EduCause that shows that students prefer and say they learn more in classes that have online components. And last, it presents converged cultures components because due to the characteristics of the medium, the online discussions allowed for integrating video, audio, wikis, interactive elements. But how or what factors did help me in making these online discussions meaningful? Well, first, building a connection between online discussions and face-to-face discussions, it's important. In other words, online discussions should not start online. They should start in the face-to-face environment. Online discussions should be reinforcement and application of knowledge and provoke them into extending their knowledge through further research, but they should start in the face-to-face environment. Don't over-utilize online discussions. For example, I have 6 online discussions, and I start them the 3rd week of class, and they go all the way through the time the teams have to present. That way, they don't become monotonous, and the students value the online discussions more. Third, providing the online discussion topics in the syllabus invites to analysis and invites for reflection because it provides the students with the opportunity to research the topics, to think about the topics before coming to the classroom. And it's important that we give a significant percentage of the final grade for online discussions. For example, in my class, I give 25%. And it really works. This year, for example, one of the parameters is that they have to post their initial thread by Wednesday. And I remember the first discussion, it was Tuesday night, and I received a lot of emails. Hey, professor, please email the students. I really need to post. I don't want this to affect my grade. So they commit higher depending on the value we give to the discussions. Setting clear, specific, and concrete expectations is very important. The use of rubrics. Rubrics that not only focus on quality, but on quantity. Not only content knowledge rubrics, but how many postings you have to do to your classmates. How much of those postings, for example, 6 to 10 sentences in each paragraph. And for replying, you have to at least post one paragraph. And for initial threads, 2 or 3 paragraphs. And it makes them commit into higher levels. Then setting expectations through netiquette. Well, this helped in my class a lot because the topics we deal with have a strong emotional and opinion component. So, for example, when we deal with topics that have to do with immigration, how do you deal with opinions that have nothing to do with yours, that are contrary to yours? And third, consistent organization. If we can take away the frustration from the students when they interact with the interface in the online discussions, then we are not going to depress learning. We're taking that burden away, and they can concentrate on content right away. It is important to build trust. Why? Well, building trust in the online environment helps to bring a sense of community. And the sense of community encourages participation and collaboration, which, how do I deal with this in the online discussions, in the cultural communication class? I take the 2 first classes to discuss in the face-to-face environment. So the very first discussion, they have to present their country, and they have to tell me what they like and they don't like. And then the second discussion is a team discussion in where they have to analyze and share ideas on a topic I provide them, and they have to present that topic to the rest of the class. But before doing that, we review rubric expectations and netiquette expectations. That way they have the trust necessary to build stronger connections, and they have the confidence to go directly to content. Then conceptualizing learning, it's important. We talked about Facebook generation. So not only providing text-based discussions, providing them with videos, giving them, for example, Facebook page about an organization that is helping such and such country in voicing their opinions. We did that with Venezuela. Asking them to provide websites or analyzing tweets. It brings a sense of connection because we are providing them with the tools they deal with on an everyday basis, and it brings interest. Keeping it short, no more than 2-3 questions, and these questions should be not only content knowledge, but also opinion and beliefs based. Why? Because we narrow that psychological distance between communicators, and we can narrow the psychological distance between communicators, then we bring social presence into the online discussion. So for example, the questions about perceptions and experiences are such as, well, how do you feel after reading this article, and how your thinking being impacted by this, and what are the takeaways? And usually that question is the one that brings their perspective more into the online environment. This promotes motivation as well, mixing the knowledge and opinion-based discussions. And last, building presence is very important into perceived learning. However, there is a thin line between presence and pressure. And how do I deal with this? Well, if I post too often, then it will be dominating. If I don't post at all, or if I post only once a week, they will perceive I'm not interested in what they have to do. So I usually post 3-4 times in the discussion board. I tell them, well, give more instructions in regards to the questions, guide their expectations, but I collect the comments that they have rated the most, or I collect the main ideas that emerge. When the discussion online is over, I present that at the beginning of the class in the face-to-face environment. This way, weaving their comments with their names shows them that, yes, they are being heard. Yes, what they say counts. And I read what they have to say, and everybody connects to that. So that's how I deal with feedback and presence pressure. And last, be prepared to adapt to the important success factors of your class. And to explain that, I would like to read Sebastian Fotti's quote. He is a researcher in education and technology that says, technology is about change. It changes the way we work. It changes the way we communicate. It changes the way we think. Perhaps, most importantly, it changes the way we change. Technology challenges us not only to change the way we do things, but to decide whether the way we do things is important to us. I hope I have provided you with some useful tips for your classes, and thank you for listening.
Time for 1 or 2 questions.
Okay.
If you go back a few slides, you had one of the first ones, don't overutilize discussion forum. That caught my interest. What is
Overutilizing, for example, my class meets once a week, and I don't use it every week throughout the semester. I just pick 6 important discussions. Overutilizing would be classes that they provide 2-3 discussions per week, or 2-3 discussions. So I will keep it balanced. Since we are doing the face-to-face discussions, the online should be only to reinforce. So one discussion, and then not through the whole semester, because they lose interest. Then it's too common. Yeah, it gets boring. Over 60 students. I have 64 students. I know, it could be overwhelming. What I do in those cases, I ask them to post in groups. So what they have to do is that they have to have another outside resource like Facebook where they discuss, and then they post in groups. And I give a feedback to the whole group, and then I also provide comments in the face-to-face environment. So that way you have to give feedback to 4, 6, 7, 8 groups in the classroom. But they are being heard. They feel they're being heard because you are talking to the group. It's a smaller group. It's a smaller amount of individuals. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Undergrad. It's undergrad. It's cultural communication for undergrad students. Yeah.
Recite your experience at what other experience you can share with us.
In regards to cultural differences, well, culture is, according to E.T. Hall, we have high context, low context cultures. So high context cultures tend to participate in different ways from low context cultures. So I have the Japanese I also have students from Latin America, which voice their opinions more frequently. So I have many examples in regards to, depends on what country they come from, that you don't hear them. I have another student from China that I don't hear them. I have a couple of students from Germany that I don't hear them. But when I go to the online discussions, they have very strong opinions. So I make a point on the first classes that I share my feedback in the face-to-face to bring those first to the classroom. And they feel really encouraged to continue participating.
Just one quick question. Just from a personal experience, I was once in a class about leadership ethics. Mm-hmm. And a student in the class revealed something in their personal experience that was actually an unethical practice, a professional experience actually, mm-hmm. Borderline illegal. And the other students in the class it got a little messy. Have you had a situation in which you needed, as a faculty member, to bring someone in?
Yeah, that happened in actually the past semester in my public speaking class, where they presented a persuasive speech, and it was very unethical in the way they presented it. And so I let them present, and then I made sure I explained the difference between legality and ethical, and how important it is to be an ethical presenter, an ethical listener, and that the solution may be very interesting, but it's not ethical. So I try to share that in individual basis, but I also try to share, I use that as an example for the class without pointing instead of saying, oh, what you did is wrong, I try to explain the logic behind that, what is ethical. And usually they say, you're right, we didn't think about that, or that's interesting, so on and so on.
Oh, last question, yes.
Something very similar, just comment on that. Something very similar happened to my brother. So one group presentation, one student copied everything from net and just submitted. Other students who were part of it, they say you cannot do that, and actually they wrote the book.
So the students took care of it.
That's good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.